Welcome to another Soccer Down Here 1v1. And I guess really this is almost like a fast break. This is a 1v4 this time around. And we get to find out the story of Vermont Green FC in USL League Two. And I am surrounded by co-founders. It's Keil Corey, Matthew Wolff, Colin Kelly, Pat Infurna. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us for a 4v1 to let us know everything about what's going on at Vermont Green.
We appreciate it, John. We like to stack the odds in our favor, so glad you took it.
All right. So now, since there's four of you and one of me, and I'm the one that has the questions. All right, so let's do this Price is Right rules here in figuring out Showcase Showdown as to what the order is going to be. I have a number between 1 and 10. So, Keil, let's start with you. What number do you have in mind?
I'll go with 7.
All right, so Matt.
I'll go with 1.
All right, so Matt has 1. Colin?
3.
And Pat?
Go with 10.
All right.
Go with the soccer number.
All right, so Keil was right on. Keil picked number 7, so that was correct. So Keil will bat lead off. And since Pat went over, he goes last. Colin was closest to Keil. He'll go third. Matt was second. So in order of me asking questions, answer will go in the order of Keil, Matt, Colin, and Pat. But I give this caveat. If during the question, any of you want to interject and add to an answer, feel free. That's the free-for-all section of this whole thing. So the bottom line is, yes, Keil has won the toss. He'll go first. But if anybody wants to jump in and so on and so forth, feel free. So here we go. Question number 1. Keil, let me ask you this. How much toil and sweat and tears and trouble went into this idea of Vermont Green FC?
A lot. I'd say trouble and toil doesn't really feel appropriate for what, the actual feelings that we've had going through this process. It's been mostly a lot of fun. It's been incredibly interesting and has allowed many of us to get into sort of hybridize our various expertise. And it's been 18 months. So we've had a pretty good runway coming up to our launch, which happened on October 12th. And we have another, Matt, I think you're saying it's like 200 days until we kick off officially in May 2022. So we got like that. Yeah. So we gave ourselves ample time to make sure that we got this right. So really it's been kind of like a wonderful, energized growth as a team with a bunch of crazy-brained people who love soccer and love Vermont and have a mission that we think is really important and essential right now for both our environment, for our society, and it makes perfect sense to us to land in sports and soccer especially.
So then, Matt, why USL League Two and why not any of the other leagues that are around? What leaned you into USL League Two?
Well, we've surveyed the entire soccer landscape in this country. And when we first have a semi-pro or professional in mind, we just wanted to build a club that represents Vermont. But as we started to go down the road, down our journey, we realized we wanted to start in the 4th tier, the 4th division of American soccer, which, as the listeners will likely know, is technically the amateur level. We wanted to start there, sort of start in the humblest beginnings, and if it's successful on the pitch and off, then maybe there will be an opportunity to rise to the professional ranks. But USL League Two, they've been great partners so far. And I think they were sort of best positioned for us to grow this thing. And we're really excited about the journey.
So then, Colin, let me ask you this. For those who aren't familiar with the soccer footprint there in Vermont, what it means, what kind of impact it has, how popular it is. Break down the soccer footprint for me there in the state, and what for folks who are outside in the other 49 states, what are they missing out on? What do they not know about soccer in Vermont?
Soccer Vermont, it's a hotbed. It's kind of, if I think it flies under the radar, it's because of the lack of current teams right now. But if you look at, and we've done all the research on the stats, and both like empirically, and then also just talking to folks, like there is a strong soccer culture in Vermont that maybe a lot of people don't realize. And so we are. I want to say we're going to tap into that, but like it's just we're going to have more fuel on the fire of what we can really do as far as an organization, and really kind of tie our strengths back into the strength of the community and the strength of the soccer culture that kind of exists there already. Obviously there's UVM, which is a big program at the collegiate level that's there already. There was a former USL team that has since folded. There's a new women's team now playing in Southern Vermont. So there is, there's the little, kind of organizations that exist right now and have existed in the past. But I think it's when we finally get up and running here next year, you'll see people like a groundswell of Vermont soccer that maybe you haven't seen before.
Pat, what is go for it? Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick because the thing about it, like this part of this club, a dream come true for all of us. But I grew up playing ball in Vermont, played club soccer, played high school soccer there too, and shout out Addison United Football Club. The scene there is so important, is integral to like every community. Every kid in Vermont more or less grows up kicking a ball around at some point, and then some lose interest, go on to play basketball or hockey. American football is pretty, I don't want to say non-existent. I don't want to hate on it either. So I just want to say it's small by comparison. So most kids have some exposure to soccer. I think there's over 7,000 youth soccer players, maybe just in Chittenden County alone, but I will need to check my facts on that. The community loves it. Every parent loves it. And it's a event that people love going to, whether that's, the college games, UVM, Middlebury College, Norwich. It's just it's a scene. People love it. People get fired up for the World Cup, for Champions League. I mean, comparatively, like you go out to the bars for like a New England Patriots game, which is kind of the big show in town for a lot of people. I mean, people get behind Champions League and English Premier League in very similar ways. I mean, of equal importance, I think. So it's just a really cool scene here. So I think people are pretty fired up about what we're bringing to the state.
So, Pat, what's the feedback been in the 3 weeks since the launch, both about the idea of the franchise and then all of the tenets that are attached to it and your mission? What's the feedback been like so far?
That's a fantastic question. And I think that the feedback has been, it's been amazing. And I think all the guys can attest to that. I think it's exceeded our expectations in a lot of ways. I think the interesting thing about the club having so many kind of pillars of our identity, being it the football side and the environmental justice side, it's brought people in from all of those worlds that want to kind of learn more, or they want to support the team, or they want to get involved. It's been great. Here in Vermont, people have been catching wind and starting to learn about what we're doing, and I think that so far, Vermonters are super excited. I think the team is built in a way that is specifically, has a desire to reflect the values of our communities here in the entire state. And on top of that, I think that our desire to kind of do more than just field a soccer team has attracted amazing feedback from others within the environmental sustainability and environmental justice kind of spaces. So yeah, I mean, we really just kind of have given the tip of the iceberg on kind of what we're going to be doing. We've given a bit of the visual identity in the brand. We've given a little bit of the mission, but what we're really excited for is to follow up with some more substance and really show people that their initial excitement, which has been great, is worthwhile. So yeah, it's been great. We're excited.
back to the top of the order, Keil, let me ask you about the environmental aspect of it. And I know that there are fans who know, for those who follow the English pyramid, there is now a League Two franchise, Forest Green Rovers, and their pillars, I think if folks are familiar with their story about pillars, about being completely and totally locked into being environmentally safe and everything that's wrapped into that phrase, that's part of their pillars as well. Break down your pillars and what you guys are looking for from the environmental justice side and integrating all of that into your day-to-day operations and being completely and totally sustainable as a franchise, not just on the field, but off the field and out in the community.
Yeah, well, you framed it well. This is about, one, it's about developing a winning soccer club to support the development of soccer in the state, to give high school and college players a tangible channel, and to excite them and to get them engaged with the players and to get that enthusiasm for the potential that they could have going forward. So that's, of course, one of the biggest elements of this. But we came together, and Matt really is the kind of the spearhead here and the catalyst behind this whole thing. And he felt that soccer was such a powerful platform. Obviously, half the world's population watches the World Cup. It could do so much more to make a serious change of behavior and to push pressure on our politicians, our corporations, our professional athletes to really turn the dial on climate change. That's where we started the conversation. We ended we transitioned into environmental justice because that's the nexus where environmental stewardship and social responsibility, social justice link up. And so just what you were saying, Forest Green Rovers, like anyone who's listening to your podcast who hasn't checked out what they're doing, please go look at what they're doing. They are head and shoulders above anyone else in sports, anywhere that we are aware of, not just soccer, that is doing some amazing stuff on environmental and social issues. And so they've been a huge inspiration for us, obviously. The thing that we are bringing to the table, I think that's fairly unique, is the environmental justice piece. When you start a conversation, for example, like everything we do, all decisions that we make at the club level, we ask, okay, say climate change. So we want to be a net zero. We want to commit to net zero carbon emissions by the end of our first season. At the beginning of that conversation is, okay, well, who are the people who are most impacted by climate change and who are disproportionately affected by climate change? And that's typically low-income people and BIPOC communities around the world, not just in the US. And so that starts the conversation from an environmental justice place. And from there, we start to engage with those communities, with those organizations, with the experts that help us co-create ideas that provide, we think, the best solutions to those environmental problems. And so it's that lens that is slightly unique in the conversation right now, which is why we're really excited that so many people are interested in what we're doing. And I think folks like the Forest Green Rovers have a lot of that embedded in what they're doing. It kind of, in many cases, you'll hear the environmental stuff talked about, and it almost feels like it goes without saying that this is going to help the most vulnerable and marginalized communities out there, because environmental issues hit those communities the hardest, whether that's climate change, whether that's water pollution, whether that's air pollution. And yet what we're hoping to do and what we're trying to do right now is put that at the front of the conversation, put those people front forward, and have a creative and co-creative process of developing the solutions that are going to really address the environmental issues, at the same time address these social justice issues.
So, Matt, let me bring you into this. And when you had these ideas, you wanted to have all of this information out there. You wanted the goals that Vermont Green want to accomplish all around, on the field, off the field, et cetera. When you started having initial conversations outside of this group that we have right here, and you wanted to continue to spread this message out and say, hey, this is what we want to do, regardless of where you do it, and you eventually ended up deciding on USL League 2. But when you started to have these conversations, about having this franchise as a centerpiece for environmental justice as a pillar. What were those conversations like outside of just that first coffee table discussion about doing a franchise?
Luckily, those conversations were met with enthusiasm, whether it was the conversations with leagues or potential partners or even coaches. It seems like this is something that, folks from all industries and all walks of life are tuned into now, which is really encouraging for the mission that we're after. And look, we're going to be, at the end of the day, we're a USL League 2 club. We have a very short season. It runs from the first week of May to mid to late July. But if we're able to create a blueprint or even inspire or influence clubs, higher up the pyramid or around the world or even in other sports, then that would be a huge win for us.
Colin, I know that you're looking for a specific kind of individual and you want them to be a part of this project. You want them to be that proper representative of what you're trying to do on the field, off the field, and in the community. How many folks have reached out to the franchise in whichever level, whether it's administration, competitive, what have you, to say, hey, we love what you're doing. We love these initial ideas. What has the response been for folks who want to get engaged now as a part of this process, knowing that you're looking for a specific kind of individual that can help carry that message forward?
I mean, we've had hundreds of people reach out across all platforms, wanting to be involved in every part of the process. There's a lot of people, again, at the end of the day, we are first and foremost a soccer club with an environmental mission. So there's obviously a groundswell of players who want somewhere to play up in Vermont next year. But then there's definitely people who see the mission, who it resonates with, who they feel strongly like this is how things should be, right? And that's how we kind of feel. And so, yeah, those people have come out in droves and we're still trying to figure out what the best way for everybody to be involved in is. But the support that we've received, unsolicited from again, countless folks has been incredible, and we're happy to see it. And I think we'll start to formalize how everybody can be kind of participate a little bit more, as hopefully as much as they would love to, which we would encourage moving forward.
Pat, let me ask you this, and let me ask it this way. I know that the four of you have to-do lists, and it could be something that is on your phone. You pull out your stylus, you sit there, you write an idea, you file it away, you put your phone away. It could be one of those magnetic boards that's attached to your fridge that you have a dry erase marker. You sit there and you write an idea. Then at 2:30 in the morning, when you're diving back in to get some more water before you head back upstairs, you get another idea, you write it down. Or it could be off, as I'm looking at you now, it could be off on this big 4-foot by 6-foot big dry erase board off on one of your walls that's attached somewhere that has 37 different ideas on it. Where is that to-do list? And what do you think the next thing is on the to-do list that you can cross off? Because we all know that June will be here before we know it. And Colin's is in a notebook. Nicely done, Colin. That was very good.
Well, wow. Okay. Another great question. I think the to-do list is organized, but chaotic throughout all of our brains at all times. I think we are constantly texting each other. We're constantly in Slack, emailing, we're meeting up. We're all over the place. I also have a notebook. It's crucial. But honestly, it's I think less so on where we're physically organizing, more so on the focus on the frequency and kind of the all-encompassing nature of just how invested all of us are in this, emotionally and like it's just been such a passion project. So the big thing to cross off, my gosh, that's a really tough question.
The Christmas
for me
party?
personally.
It's a long list.
Well, a Christmas party, I mean, in that vein, I think the biggest thing for me to, and I don't think this is something that can ever be completely crossed off, but continue to make connections with as many people in Vermont. I mean, of course, we want this club to be global in many aspects, so we want people from all over to have interest, but prioritizing, getting as many individuals and as many voices and as many constructive and progressive ideas from right around the community where the club will be playing. Just continuing to find as many of those voices and hearing them and seeing where those ideas can slot into our identity and our practices. So I don't think that's something that's ever fully crossed off, but I think that's for me personally, that's one thing I'm constantly looking to improve.
Last time through the batting order, Keil, what do you think the biggest challenge is with this project, whether it's on the field or off the field? Is the on the field more of a challenge? It's assembling the right kind of individual to represent this club and put a product out on the field? Or is it the environmental aspect and the pillars that you have for global success in the environment? What's the bigger challenge here? Or is there something that's off the board that I didn't mention that's the biggest challenge?
Man, I feel like everyone should get a crack at this one. And again, I'm going to go optimism on you, because all this stuff is not challenging. I mean, it is in aspects. There are technical challenges we face with, net zero commitments, with better understanding stakeholder engagement processes to really have cultivate meaningful relationships with organizations and individuals in our community. Of course, the sporting side, getting the right staff, and then all the processes going into recruitment and that kind of stuff. We've ticked off a number of the bigger things, of course, already. The stadium, we're locked in at UVM's Virtue Field. We've got our LLC set up. We've got our league contract signed and full support from the league, and they're bought into our mission in a really deep way. So a lot of the stuff, the bigger stuff, feels like, okay, we've gotten that done. The sporting side is right around the corner and looking good. The delivering on the mission in an authentic way that I think is going to be quite interesting and novel in many aspects for other sports clubs is the biggest challenge, of course. But what's going on under the hood makes me feel kind of at ease with where we're at and where we're going. Even just getting into sorry, I'm going a little more technical on you, but all the apparel stuff that we've been doing, looking to become, fully circular in our merchandise, which we have a line of sight to, and making sure that we embed environmental justice in every garment we sell. Of course, our kits, we'll talk more about that when we're closer to that, but we're moving forward on those. But there's logistics, supply chain stuff that I personally hadn't had experience in, that we're working together in our team. And it's been a wonderful and interesting experience, albeit very difficult to find the stuff that we really want that checks the boxes in the ways that we believe are necessary to put a garment out that really stands for what we stand for. So thankfully we've been able to do that, but we have a little ways to go with where we really want to get to with some of that stuff. So anyway, that was probably a lot there, but I think the other guys probably have would take a crack at that one.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take Keil's advice here. Matt, since you're second in the batting order, biggest challenge on the field, off the field, what do you think the biggest challenge is to make this a success?
Biggest challenge to make this a success. Well, it is football, and there's just 90 minutes, and the ball can bounce in any direction. So I think the bigger challenge from where I'm sitting is just making sure we get to that first match day, and then as soon as the referee blows the whistle to kick off the match, I think our hearts and minds will be at ease in that piece, and hopefully we'll all just be cheering the boys on. But Keil's right. There's a lot we have to take care of, but a lot we've already accomplished to date. given that we've been working on this project now for over 18 months, despite it only being public for about 3 weeks. My background is in design and art direction. So I'm hard at work crafting some more of the visual identity, the crest, the kits, working with suppliers like Keil mentioned that are aligned with our commitment to environmental responsibility. But it's going to be here quicker than we know, which is both terrifying and incredibly exciting.
Third in the order, Colin Kelly, biggest challenge on the field or off. What do you think it is?
Yeah, as Keil is the optimist, I'm the pessimist. I mean,
we got to have the balance, Colin. It's all about the balance, baby.
Ton of challenges, and Keil just touched on a couple of them. Matt touched on it, but finding a manufacturer that is up to our exacting standards of what we want this club to be from an environmental sustainability perspective. Finding potential corporate partners that are up to the same challenge as what we want this club to be. Though these are challenges, although we obviously believe it's the right thing to do, that are relatively self-imposed. That are maybe your average club doesn't necessarily have to face because they don't have this mission that we have. Again, we think it's the right thing to do. We know it's the right thing to do, but it's these are additional challenges that we're putting in front of ourselves. It's not like the minor league soccer landscape is known for its profitability. So there's going to be financial challenges of running this club, especially the way that we want to run it and things of that nature. I believe that we will figure out all these things, and people will show up and support, and we'll hammer out all these details. But it's there's a lot more that went into this, even though I have a soccer background that I was not expecting, and continues to challenge, but in a good way. But yeah, this is not something that is just going to kind of just happen, just because we wanted to. There is a lot of work and effort that goes into it.
All right. So Pat, you're batting cleanup. We've had an optimist. We've had a pessimist. We've had someone who's focusing on the day-to-day. As cleanup hitter, where do you fall in here?
I think I have to echo the optimism of Keil, and I think it's very informed. I think I think everything we're doing is extremely ambitious, and I think starting a pre-professional club in Burlington, Vermont. There's Division I sports at UVM, and there's the Lake Monsters, but there hasn't been a precedent set for a large sporting entity that attracts a lot of fans, which we want to do. It's the challenge, but I think we can do it. And then on the environmental side, we're holding ourselves to a very high standard. And that's a challenge, but we also are starting the club in a place that has an incredible infrastructure for environmental sustainability and environmental justice. And then frankly, on the field, it's very difficult to start an expansion club and do well on the field. However, I think that Vermont has a large pool of talented coaches and players that could step up and be big ballers and go out there and play really well. And so again, I think everything is a challenge just based on how ambitious it is and how much, how big picture we are all seeing these things. But I also think that we wouldn't take it on if we didn't really believe in the project. So yeah, I don't know where I sit there, but I think I'm on the optimistic side, but I know that Colin is too. He just has to kind of cover it up by pretending it's the only way to keep us all in check. So yeah.
So Keil, now that I'm back to you, time for the promo. For everybody who wants to keep an eye on what's going on there at Vermont Green, how do they do it? Because as we all know, June will be here before we know it. Getting players will be here before we know it. Getting everything hitting the ground at 120,000 miles an hour will be here before we know it. So how do folks keep an eye on things?
Yeah. So go to our website, vermontgreenfc.com. It's a great place to start. We're on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think all those are great places. I know the soccer world seems to have an infatuation with Twitter, so you can find us find us there as well. All of our stuff's coming out there. So we have a blog as well on our website. You can track our journey there. You can email us also. We are more than happy to get emails from supporters or people who are just interested in what we're doing and want to know more. That's club@vermontgreenfc.com. Those are probably the main places I'd suggest to start with. And again, doors open to anyone interested in what we're doing. Would love to have a conversation. We want to get this out there as far and wide as possible and love building our community.
Keil Corey, Matthew Wolff, Colin Kelly, Pat Infurna, all co-founders of Vermont Green FC. Guys, thank you for doing this and getting together all in one group here at the electronic discussion table for a 4v1 here at Soccer Down Here. We'll be keeping an eye on things. Thanks for hanging out with us, because we all know June will be here before we know it. Thanks for hanging out with us here for a 4v1, guys.
Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.